Welcome to another Summer Weekly with the Blue Room. It's me and Les. For the next half hour or so, discussing all of the news that we've got coming up and games coming up for Everton as the Premier League, as domestic football comes back finally after 3 weeks of international football, which was for many people who listen to us absolutely devastating for England losing the final against Spain. As many who listen to us are not particularly bothered by that. I'm just glad we're back into the domestic stuff. There's 30 days to go until the season starts. Back in the Premier League, back to what we used to. Hopefully, a better season than what we've had, and we're not sort of scrapping to stay in the Premier League for the last 3 years. The first thing I want to talk to you about here, Les, which I sort of start this with a wry smile because we've spoken about this a lot this morning, is the brand new Everton kit, which has come out, and
Yeah,
there's all sorts of fuss going on around it. I don't want to start with that, but I know it's your expertise, isn't it? Looking at kits over the years and all that sort of stuff. And as soon as I saw it yesterday at the live buildings, instantly first thing I thought of, Les won't like this. Les will not like this whatsoever. And I know, given the brands we've got in Castore coming in, there was a lot of there's people not liking the idea of them anyway, given what they've done, given what they stand for brand wise and stuff like that. They're brand new, and I think a couple of lads up your way created the company, didn't he? Which is
apparently so. Yeah.
which is an interesting thing to delve into. But what did you think of it as soon as I sent it to you?
Um, I thought it's not as bad as I was expecting. So we'd seen all like the knockoffs and like the sort of pixelated pictures over the weeks as people had like sort of got onto what it might look like, and obviously the overall design of the knockoffs was like spot on, apart from that pinstripe one, obviously. But it's not bad.
Mm.
It's all right. There's the thing like with the home kit, as long as it's blue, it's kind of like, well, you've done it right there. I don't think I'll ever get past that Castor badge. I just can't get my head around it. On paper, it should be perfect. It's a local sports company that's gone global.
Yeah.
That should be a great story, and it should be the sort of brand we'd be looking for. But there's just something about it that I just cannot take to. We'll come on to the two-tier pricing in a minute. It could be that. I mean, I hate the logo. The logo is crap anyway, but I can't get my head around it. In terms of the kit, yeah, it's not bad. I think the detailing on the front, which is meant to be a mix up of the old AFC badge we had on the
Yeah.
125 anniversary kit. It's meant to be bits of that, which reminds me a little bit of I think the 92-93 kit.
I think that's what
Like
it's from. Yeah, 1920s. I think they announced. Yeah.
yeah, that's when the badge mashup's from. But the design looks quite similar to the 92-93 kit that Beardsley and Mo Johnson and that wore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's mashed up a bit too much because you can't tell. I think if it had like sort of discernible elements of that badge, it might look like something. So, the good side of that is it's not just a thoughtless design. There are elements of heritage gone into it, which is kind of, another thing you kind of look for in a kit. But yeah, it's all right. It's not, I don't find it offensive really.
Yeah.
You've done an all right job, I think.
Yeah, I think pleasantly surprised given the brand that's taken over from us. Everybody loved Hummel. Ironically, I didn't like Hummel too much either, but I know for a fact you'd start saying you've got to be Umbro, got to be Umbro, should absolutely be Umbro for the last year
Yeah.
at Goodison. The thing that you mentioned there about the way in which they've mixed up the old badge and stuff like that, and I think they've just sort of thought too hard on it, and they've just tried to make it too much of a oh, isn't that really clever the way in which we've done that? Because unless you tell every person you know and you haven't received the information
Yeah.
of that's what it is, people are like, that's just a random pattern or whatever. Do you know what I
Yeah, it
mean?
looks like it, doesn't it?
Well, that's immediately when I saw it, and obviously going up close to it, I was like, okay, what's that about? I think one of the when we had Kazoo as our sponsor, one of the kits we had under them in previous years had something similar to that, which obviously had nothing of relevance whatsoever to former badges or anything like that. I mean, it is when you get the sort of the release of the information and things, you think, oh, do you know what? That's actually a really clever idea. But then I'm thinking, do you know, if you may come up to you who's not an Evertonian that said, oh, that's interesting. What's that all about? You'd be like, well, did you know that's our badge in the 1920s and we had such and such in goal? You know what I mean? And
Well, yeah,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that there's a traditional Everton connection to it, but I think what I've found in many people I've spoke to already, and the reaction we've had on putting it out on Twitter, is that it's it's a bit of a letdown for what people wanted in terms of the real traditions of what we'd expect. Various things that you'd expect on that kit. Everton's last time
yeah.
on Gladys Street. There's no real reference to that at all.
No, I think yeah, it does kind of make you think that everyone was getting ready for last season being our last season when you look at the kit Hummel did last year.
Yeah.
I mean, for what it's worth, I didn't really like the Archibald Leach stuff on the collar in that kit, but that's by the by. I think with this one, it's so they've clearly taken elements from the '95 kit, the one we wore in the cup final, and had the 2 seasons after, because the collar's got the same sort of pinstriping on it, hasn't it? But it's a round neck collar, so they've gone with the traditional round neck, white round neck, blue shirt of classic 60s Everton kit, basically. Added that little detail from the 95 kit, which is, I don't really think it works, but it's a nice touch. Just thought gone into it. And I think going back to that 95 kit, I'm just looking at it now, they did the mashup of the badge much better. So if you look on that kit in the watermark, you can actually see bits of the badge, and it's just done more effectively because you can see what it is. I think the season before that as well, 92-93, I think that had a big Everton badge on it as well in the watermark. So I can see what they've done, and it's a nice idea, and I'm glad it's not just a generic sort of template kit, which you could argue we may have got that off another manufacturer. We might have done. So it is good in that respect, but I think there's sort of I don't know. It could have been better, but it's all subjective, isn't it? There'll be people who absolutely love it, and it's fair enough. But it's just, I don't know, it's just an all right kit.
Yeah,
it's better than some of the ones we've had over the past few years.
I was going to say it's like it's not generic. It's they've actually had a look. I appreciate they've had a look and thought, you know what, how are we actually going to make this as unique as we possibly can?
Yeah,
the club. And when we're talking to people at the club yesterday, they were saying that was essentially the priority that they put into what they wanted in the design and all that sort of thing. I do completely agree with you with the actual the way it's actually made by Gastore, who are obviously relatively new. They've got some big clubs who they to do this with. I didn't realise yesterday when I was told Atletico Madrid done by Gastore. You think I think it started at Rangers in the UK. They've got various clubs that they're taking on board and whatnot. So obviously they're no joke. They
do a lot of international cricket gear as well, don't they?
Yeah, they're here for a long time. I was talking actually about Andy Murray. Obviously he's retiring from tennis this year, but he's had it for the last couple of years.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, and work-wise, I remember a few bits and bobs they did with that, and he adored it because they were able to put his initials underneath it, so it was like really unique for what he got done. I'm talking far too technical about this here, but let's move on to the controversial stuff. I say controversial stuff. I think it's pretty straightforward what people are going to feel about this, and we saw it coming. And the club itself have tried to defend this a little bit, but it's well, you'll judge it yourself, everybody that's listening to us. But I'm pretty sure this would be the more popular opinion of it that we're going to say here now. It's the price, and the two, looking up close to the two, which obviously in the shops now. A lot of people who listen to this probably got and saw it by now. You can't really tell specifically on the online thing, which is sort of ironic, really, because I guess that's where they're going to make the most business from at the club. But when you see the two up close, you can't really see a difference between the pro version and the replica, which I guess what they'd say is, well, that's great because you can't tell. And it reminds me, when you went into school and the new footy kit came out, it was like, you get kids come and say, whoa, that's amazing, that new kit, you know what I mean? I'm thinking now, the first thing that I was thinking about was, say you've got a kid who wants a kit. First of all, we'll talk about that price in a second. But if you got given the pro one, whilst one of the other kids got the replica one, I still think they rip each other in school by saying, "Oh, look at
Oh,
that! He's got the most expensive one." But the only thing, as you can see from the stuff we put out on our social media, is the vents that are on either side, just under where
yeah,
your arm would be. That is the only difference. Plus, again, when you get to see it up front, the feeling of it, the fabric that it is, there's all sorts of tech stuff that you're told about that, which again is not my cup of tea. Essentially, it means that sweat gets
yeah,
poured out of you rather than just linger, and it becomes quite heavy on it. And it's really light. And the other one is a conventional kit that you would, you just drawn a picture on it. It's that exact same fabric. But yeah, the price wise though, Les. Well, first of all, what do you think about them
I,
doing two different versions? Maybe
I,
because it seems to be the go-to thing now, doesn't it?
yeah, it is. I don't know. I think it might have been Nike that started this, and I just don't like it at all. As you say, you're creating a two-tier system for kids here, which might, for people who aren't into this kind of thing, it'll sound dead arbitrary. You might not care, but if you, I mean, it does matter because I still wear tops. I don't care. I will unashamedly wear a football top and not asked. But like, if you bring it down to kids, which is like kind of accepted that this is kind of what it's aimed at. When you're a kid, you get your kits.
It's important to kids as well, Les. Don't we forget?
It is that
important.
And as you mentioned, you will get that thing in school where I don't know, depending on where it is in the school, it is the majority might have the pro shirt, and then a couple of kids come in a replica shirt and get ripped for it because they got the cheap one.
Yeah,
and it's like poverty shaming. There's nothing big or clever about it, but there's nothing really big or clever about kids, and they will just rip the piss out of each other in any way they can, and that will happen. And you shouldn't have that, because basically the only reason you should get ripped for being a toffee in school is by cockfights and vice versa. You shouldn't be getting ripped by like other toffees, but it will happen, and I really don't like it. And I think Pete put a thread out before, didn't he, saying about the differences. I think you can see in the material. So the replica shirt is just like your standard nylon top. I've seen this with the Nike ones as well, and then I think Nike call it a stadium shirt. The quality is way, way better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just really don't like that. And that is, as you say, before you get onto the pricing of it, which I think even the price of the replica shirt is excessive. 80 quid for the adult one, and 75 for the short sleeve adult one, and 55 for the short sleeve kids one. That is a lot just for the replica shirt. And then it's what's the kids stadium shirt?
Pro one.
The stadium shirt, sorry, the pro shirt's 110 quid in it.
Yeah, you've got 35 quid difference between them.
Yeah,
which is a lot. It's a lot of money with that, Les. And like I said to you, and I think it was a good thing that you really do not tell the difference unless you know necessarily that those vents are on the side of it. Which I guess most parents aren't looking at and thinking, "Oh, my kid's going to kick off at me if it hasn't got vents on it." Because ironically, it's in a position where you can't really see it anyway, because where your arms go down.
Under the arm,
and the other encouragement about this, we were told, was the not the when it's called pros, that there's a reason it's called pros. It doesn't necessarily, and I think this is where the market's been quite poor by Castore saying it's pro, makes you sort of think that it's for like semi-professional footy players, or that sort of thing, playing five-a-side all the time, and literally take their sport serious wearing an Everton top. Whereas if you've got your everyday going fan, which I consider myself, I consider you, are you bothered by having a pro feeling different fabric when you're standing there screaming at Everton for going 1-0 down? Absolutely not. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the point there where it starts to sort of become quite distinct for me is that the replica one is basically, as I regard, maybe feeling a bit old these days, but I remember a footy kit, and I remember getting the one that I think I mentioned all the time, the yellow and blue stripes.
Yeah.
That we had as the away. I remember a bit of nostalgia here, going when it came out. It had obviously the socks, the shorts, then the top. And my mum decided to go, well, 1 week you can have the socks, next week you can have the shorts, last week you can have the shirt. She's whatever wage-wise and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, dead anxious to get like 2 weeks down the line, and I had it, you know what I mean? And I got it, and I distinctly remember it being 35 quid. And that is what, 97, something like,
it's got up to 30
around
years
those times. Yeah. And I think, well, if you were to say to me, Now you've bought something that essentially one time was 35 quid and it's doubled given it's near 30 years later. Then you're thinking, do you know what? That's probably the way inflation's gone up. But the fact that it's a football top is what gets me a little bit more, because we're not a club that is supposed to be renowned for its sort of, I'm not going to say rip off or go as far as that, but sort of putting fans in a place where they absolutely need more money from them. And obviously that's going to be the issue that's going to go on throughout the season, less in terms of saying goodbye to Goodison. Obviously, we've seen that they're going to be events on with former players and stuff like that. If you're wanting say if you went for the full stuff that's going to be rolled out, as in the tickets for those events, the commemorative pack as well, that only season ticket holders can get, all stuff like that's going to be done throughout the season. You're looking at a big, big, big price that you've got to end up taking. And of course, the kit's not going to go into what the club are doing, because they'll just, that's a separate entity for them. But 75, 80 quid for a replica top, which by name against the pro one, people are going to be like, I'm paying that amount of money for something that's in the middle standard and not as good as the one that you've got for sale. So, take your kid, I don't know, 10, 11 years going to school, and you're saying to your mum, I need the new kit on the day it came out, which a lot of kids will do. That's where they'll get a lot of money today because it's came out. And they get the kid gets the replica one, which, working class people, that's still really, really expensive to go and do. And then you've got to, I feel so sorry, because you've got to go back to your kid who undoubtedly know absolutely everything about football these days, kits included, and then say to the kid, here's the kit, a real surprise for you, I've got the new kit. Hope you look at your kid and they're absolutely smiling their head off, just beaming over the fact they've got the new kit sooner than everybody else. And then when they look at it and see that it hasn't got the vest thing and it doesn't feel like he can sweat playing footy with his mates, it's that feeling that makes me feel quite. I feel quite sad. I feel quite sad about that, Les.
I'm just looking at it now, right, in the shop, and it looks like you can potentially only get the replica kit for kids.
That's right. No, that's right. Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's still, if you're buying a full kit, it's still a ton.
Well, you'd still get small kids trying to get kids trying to get a small man's one, wouldn't you? Going there looking like a tent.
That in itself, that's a good thing, that there is only one.
Oh yeah, it is.
One price of kit. I think the issue here is as well, it's just the overall cost of football kits in general. It's, clubs have got fans over a barrel with this thing, because there's a build-up of excitement about the kit releasing. They know everyone's going to want to buy it. Everyone's going to want to buy it for the kids. And yet the prices are still really high. So like 80 quid for the replica shirt for Everton, 75 quid, that is a lot of money. 55 quid for the kids one is a lot of money when you think, all right, your kid will wear it until it falls off them probably. So they'll get a lot of wear out of it. But it's still a lot of money on one item. I've just been looking at some other kits. I was going to do a comparison with the Sunderland kits because they're Hummel, obviously, and that's sold out.
Really?
That's
quite ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's like that in itself is quite very Everton, isn't it? Because we normally sell out to something, usually socks, I think, isn't it? If you look at like the comparison with Liverpool, their stadium. Oh, sorry, the stadium jersey's the replica one. That's 80 quid. Their match jersey, which is the pro one, is 125.
Yeah, and that's where
the adult ones.
Well, I was going to say, mate, yesterday
they also do youth stadium and match jerseys as well. So the kids stadium jersey is £60 and the match one is £100. So you're looking at the charging 100 quid for a kid's shirt there. Now, as price points go anyway, that's just way too expensive for what it is. I looked at Ipswich, so they're with Umbro. Their adult shirt's 59 quid. The kids' shirt's 43.
Slightly better.
Which, it's still expensive, but they've only got one type of shirt that everyone buys, and it's 21 quid cheaper and 12 quid cheaper for the kids one. So
that's a lot. That's a lot to say in percentage wise. You think about the financial side. That seems about right, although still expensive. Under 60 quid and
£40-ish for a kid's top, it would sit a lot better. I just think the overall price is too much. But yeah, I think the 2-tier pricing, you need to knock it off. All clubs need to knock it off. And I don't know, I think Evertonian should boycott that pro shirt. Just don't buy it.
Well, when you've got, I mean, when you've got that, we're talking about the kid size of it. You've got a kid growing. You've got a couple of lads. You've got a kid who grows really fast. You get it in August, and you get round to a year down the line. That's not going to fit, and that takes me to, like, I think it's quite, obviously it's not funny, but in the sense of it being quite interesting is the fact that if you've got a kid that has to get the biggest replica kid size, obviously he's going to grow into the place where they'll need the smallest pro size.
Yeah.
So they're not going to get, like you said, kid. You've pretty got it painted on you when you're a kid. You don't take it off. It's what every kid does. When we've always done it when I was a kid. You get to that point there where you're like, it'll be interesting to see what the discount will be when it starts. When we start to get towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
will be interesting to see how that is. But the other thing that sort of gets with me as well, Les, is they're always 1 year, and I could digest if they said, "Oh, we've got that as well on the first season in the new stadium," and I guess that people would complain about that anyway because they think they want a new special original a new shirt. When we go into the new stadium, we want a very unique shirt, and maybe they're able to learn from people being, not too happy about the fact they haven't got too many original sort of style on the new kit. You get to the stadium, they'll want something that's special for that as well. So I sort of get it in that regard then, but like you mentioned it, I can't remember a club that does the 2 years, because it always used to be 2 years. The Brentford
do it now, yeah. I don't know if it's just with the home kit, but they definitely said they're keeping last season's home kit for this season as well.
That's fantastic, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. The issue you've got there, and it all comes down to, football clubs trying to make as much money as they possibly can. Now, it's all obviously football clubs have always wanted to make as much money as possible because they're a business, but now it seems a lot more crucial that they exploit every single revenue stream as much as they can. So when you have got, let's say, the night clubs charging £125 for like a football shirt, they're all, the nightclubs, the top tier nightclubs, top tier Adidas clubs, they're all like the most supported clubs around the world. So those Liverpool shirts, they're going to be getting sold globally. We'll sell ours globally, but to a much, much lesser degree.
Not to that extent, yeah.
So already Liverpool are making a hell of a lot more money just on that. Then they've got all the match day stuff, which they make a lot more money on. That's my next concern, next season ticket prices, because that's going to go up, and that does worry me, because there's 4 of us go. It's a lot of money between us all. But that's another matter. But it just comes down to clubs are going to push it as much as they can to get as much money out of fans, because if they don't now and they don't make the revenue, you see, like last season, you might get a points deduction, and then that's where it comes down to things like financial irregularities in the club shouldn't hit the fans because they're paying for it twice. If you've got a set of fans, like, our area isn't rich.
Exactly. Yeah.
You look at someone like a Chelsea, let's say, their fans might be more able to buy top.
Well, theirs is a lot more than ours, isn't it?
Well, they've got a Nike one, isn't it? So that'll be 125.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Instantly they can make more money. They might make more money in game, so they can build up more money from their fans. We've only got like sort of so much we can give, really. And you do begrudge it because you pay your season ticket, you go to the game, you'll get some food in the ground. Now we give them a lot of money. I think it would need an overhaul of the PSR rules. I know this only feeds in a tiny bit into all that, but it all goes into the same thing, doesn't it? It all comes down to clubs making money. I think the only way it could stop is if the clubs collectively sort of did something, but they've got absolutely no reason to. Yeah. That's why I think, a boycott, if not on the shirt completely, maybe just the adult shirts, maybe just the pro shirts. Just don't buy it because it's too expensive. If your kids want it, it's hard to begrudge your kid the top. You can't
Christmas
just
time and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not getting it because I'm taking a stand against the club, because then you'd just be like the worst parents ever. It would just be a dick move. But when it comes to buying the actual adult shirt, just don't get it. Just say, nah, it's too expensive,
Mm.
and do it that way. The club will suffer, but it could lead on to a thing that catches on, like the 20s, was it 20s plenty? Yeah, it
Yeah,
was, wasn't it?
the
Ticket
ways.
prices.
Yeah,
That was just a small little movement that eventually caught on and made the change. So, I mean, you probably don't get it because football fans are notoriously bad at organising
mm.
because they're just too tribal in like their own views.
Yeah.
But I think it's too much, and they are squeezing the fans so much. But I can see why clubs would do that. And until they've got an incentive not to, they're not going to. But just to say, I'm not justifying what the club have done or what the manufacturers have done with this two-tier pricing.
Well, that's how they justify it, basically, isn't it? So
that is how they justify it, and there is a point to that. But I would say just boycott it. Just don't buy them because they're too expensive.
Just the last thing I wanted to talk about on the kit was, do your lads how old are your lads that you've got, Les?
Well, Jay's 19 next month. Joe's 15 now, so they're in adult sizes anyway.
But are they like, can't wait to go and get it? Are they sort of like, is that something they've come to you and said, can I have it? Can you get me it? Can I have it for my birthday? But has it been like relentless?
Yeah, they usually get a kit for the birthday. So this kit has been released after Joe's birthday.
So you got away with it then?
You normally get one, so he's not getting one now. So but yeah, so they do not. There is usually a bit of excitement about it. I think the fact that it was Castor this year, there was just the excitement was a bit muted. One thing I will say about the shirt though as well is the stake logo smaller.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
looks it.
The .com bit is tiny compared to last season's one, but also that's another thing I was impressed by when I went straight in to see it, is that it looks, I'm not going to say it looks smart because I can't stand who they are, to be honest with you. I can't stand, like yourself, the gambling side of things. And I keep asking, like, when's this going to finish? And I think it's 2 more years. And I was like, didn't this get announced? Something in the back of my mind, I thought that they were banning having gambling sponsors on shirts. I'm sure that was somewhere down the line.
Been on the cards for a while.
Yeah, and obviously it's just, well, it's no surprise the way the Premier League is and the way businesses are these days. They're obviously going to stick with it.
It's actually, it's just a little tangent there that could be interesting. So, King's speech today, wasn't it? Sort of outlining what the new government's going to do coming into power and pushing through the football regulator.
Yeah,
was one of the things that was mentioned. So it'll be interesting to see if that's a part of that sort of regulation of football, whether they will get rid of the gambling sponsors. It's a weird thing for me. There's such a big gambling culture around football.
Yeah,
I don't know how much getting rid of it from shared sponsors will sort of do anything. I suppose it's a bit like when they stop selling ciggies in the shops in packets. They like put it behind the counter. I don't know if that's had any effect.
Oh yeah, it's like hidden, like it's like when you go in and get a condom or something. Although you can see them on the floor now, can't you?
Always on the top shelf. Terrible for me trying to reach.
Mate, you know everything about that top shelf. Somebody need to test something like that.
Hey,
WH Smith springs to mind.
Oh no, just the local news agent. Don't want to go into Smith's. Too many people in there. Yeah, or there's usually a ripped up one in a bush somewhere. So
yeah, exactly. It's all digital now, anyway.
Well, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if like that will be a big part of what the regulator does, or if they do, I don't know how much effect it will have. But I suppose it's a step in the right direction if they do. I think the more important thing for me is that more money cascades down to grassroots, because that's just the amount that the Premier League give to grassroots football is just pretty appalling. Doesn't filter down, but anyway, probably a conversation for another day when we know more about it.
Yeah, there was just one thing I wanted to, what you mentioned there, that I want to get a little bit deeper on, was what it does for the club to charge for this amount. I think they've got, and they will say it's a justification, and they'll say, look, we're going on the lines of how the brands we've got now, we're slightly cheaper than where everybody else gets it. And look, I get that'll be the encouragement. That'll be the sort of thing they're trying to stress on to people who will complain about the prices of it, and rightly so, they should do. But the other thing's going to be, well, you'll be helping the club, and that doesn't settle with me nice either, Les. That really doesn't. I know look how many times we spoke of PSR and 777 and all that crap we've had in recent months gone by. I think a club sort of insinuate they're obviously going to come out and say help Everton, but it feels it basically like that for many clubs. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they would say, and not to find a point on it on who I've spoken to, but they would say, well, the club needs as much income as possible because we're going to the new stadium. Fair, but you would then end that conversation with, we don't need that specifically from fans. And just going back to what I was talking about with the events and various things they're going to be selling going forward, and heard that you can get your seat as well. How that works out in regards to what they did at Liverpool, when I think a few Liverpool fans, rightly so, when that main stand was made bigger, they obviously had wooden seats.
Yeah.
On the fans, they rightly so just ripped it off and took it with them as best they possibly could. The others got ripped out and put onto the pitch. There was quite a infamous picture of that, just piles and piles and piles of wooden seats, and they then put them on the club website for in excess of 150 quid to get your own seat back, which you've been paying. Well, obviously thousands of pounds in the end over the years that you had one. I just really hope we don't go that way, but I would not be surprised with bits and pieces like that. But look, it's a final season at Goodison. I hope we're not sitting there at various stages of the season saying this has all gone a bit snide to modern day, financial culture, as opposed to, look, lads, this is the final year at our club's stadium for over a century.
Yeah.
You can't use it the way in which I'm pretty sure those who are doing the books at Everton would be desperate to. I mean, I bet you when they're going down to the marketing team and they're saying, oh, that's really nice, that kit. Look, we need to get it at this price. Here's the final numbers at the end of our accounts. If we put it at this price, we're sorted for this. Doesn't settle well.
Just a couple of bits on that for me. So it's like, I think the Goodison final season, obviously it's huge for everyone, but there's a very fine line for them going overboard on stuff. Like that commemorative pack that's come out. So my dad's got one for Joe as part of his season ticket. I've got one for Jay as part of his. We didn't get one ourselves, just got one each for the kids that we're paying for as part of the direct debit for the season ticket. But that puts it up quite a little bit, about a tenner a month or something, maybe like that.
Yeah, I think it's 65 quid, that. I mean, to be fair, Les, before you carry on, I'm completely hooked on it, by the way.
Is it good, yeah?
Because I saw it in person, mate, and it's like the photos you get with it. And the immediate person I thought of at the time looking at it was Laura. Who is an amazing photographer, all the stuff she does. I mean, I'd be straight over to her, and I will be, about various things she does, as opposed to what you get from the club. But it is lovely, the various photos they give you. Like, as you can imagine, the most memorable moments, but they have the story of it behind the photo as well, and the badges that you get. It's really nice, and I'm thinking 65 quid from that, you can probably digest that, like you say, across on a direct debit, which I guess a high percentage of fans are. I'm like that, like you just said there yourself. That sort of thing where you're thinking that's only a £10 a month extra, you can absorb it, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's just my opinion, mate. I'm absolutely hooked on it. But I get your point in. That's another thing they're trying to sell.
If they keep doing it, if they keep pushing things, buy this, buy this, buy this, I fully understand that they want to make money out of it. And it's a once in a lifetime thing. And, as a business, you do want to rinse it for all you can. But I don't want us to feel fatigued and battered by it, because it's going to be hard enough leaving as it is without the club really forcing it down your throat. Hopefully they won't. And hopefully everything they do will be, sort of tastefully done, well thought through, decent price points and that. But yeah, I don't want to have this season rammed down our throat. Just want to have a nice sort of season, going the game, enjoying it as much as we can.
Yeah. But the last one though, Les, do the final point. We've got all this to come in the new ground.
Well, yeah, that's true.
All of this is going to be, you need this brand new. This is history. Everton are going to be here for 1,000 years. You need this, you need this, you need that. Something you'll pass on for generations in your family. I've just marketed them myself. That must be really easy for them to sell what they want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does feel like that. I mean, again, it's another once in a lifetime thing, and the club will make the most of it. But just don't want to feel like we're constantly having to being told to shell out on things and buy things from the club. And I don't know. There was a thing a few years ago, wasn't there, when you talk about how much money the club makes, and it came out that with the new TV deal, they could actually let everyone in for free, and it still wouldn't really affect them that much, because the deal had increased by that much. The gate revenue was kind of irrelevant, really. Obviously, now everyone's got used to that money. Now the deal's a few years in. Gate revenue still relevant to the club and still relevant to all the clubs, but it does feel like all this is more of a nice to have. And if they all spent the money a little bit better and were a little more thoughtful, we could get a better deal as fans on kits, on ticket prices, on the price of food and drink in the ground.
Yeah.
Because again, that's another thing where you get absolutely rinsed. If you want to buy any food or drink in the ground, it's just everything is just at such a massive premium now. And you can see with Everton's ticket prices, although still good in comparison to the rest of the league, they are creeping up as you'd expect. And it just feels like the way the game is, all the money just goes to the top. And all the money that comes in goes on player wages, executive wages. Well, obviously, there's a lot of money involved in running a club from day to day. But you just feel if there was something like a salary cap, and if it was all just a little bit less Wild West.
We're not asking for much. We're not asking for much either. Do you know what I mean? It's not a massive thing you're asking for.
And it would stop. It would stop this sort. It would obviously have to be worldwide, which is a problem again, because if you impose a salary cap in England, let's say, players are just going to go, and you won't get the best players. The league will suffer, and all the fallout from that. So that's a global thing, which would be difficult to do.
UEFA thing, something like that.
Yeah, but it just feels like it's beginning to eat itself now. Football for me, it's just becoming too much of a black hole for money, and all the money is pooling at the top of the game, and we're the ones that suffer. And to bring it back down to grassroots as well, grassroots are suffering because the facilities are knackered. Councils are selling off pitches to private companies who then rent them out, for extortionate amounts the kids can't use in the leisure time, or even if they're with a club, they can't afford to go and train there. So it does feel like we're gonna get to a tipping point somewhere relatively soon, I'd say, whereby there's just too much money in the game and too much money getting taken out of us as fans of the game. And this all might seem a little bit over the top on the back of the new kids house, and it's a little bit expensive, but it's just a product of the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
the price
it's an example.
It's the most sort of tangible thing you can see about how expensive the game is, because even if you don't go the game, it's getting more expensive for you to support your club. Right across the board, it's getting more expensive for everyone.
Yeah,
and it's got to come to a tipping point at some stage. Hopefully soon, and there's a big revolution. That's all.
Yeah, well, I was going to say to you, it's probably time for another conversation. But sort of, when does that sort of bubble that you've mentioned there actually burst, and what could happen to not suffer from it in regards to the football we watch, the players we watch? Like you said, the automatic thing. If everybody doesn't do it, they're off. Do you know what I mean? It's to whatever division they go to. You look at what's going on in Saudi Arabia as well. That sort of, you could easily see that happening in Europe, really.
Yeah.
But anyway, sort of cut it there with the kits. Do let us know what you think when you go and see it. If you've bought it, if you've compared the pro version, like this, we like to say our podcast is a pro version, not a replica. You might have to cut that out, mate, because that was so cheesy. But anyway,
man, the originals.
Yeah, that's it. The originals. That's right, mate. The originals were 12 years old now. They're in. I don't think there were many podcasts around when.
Just one thing, sorry, right on the marketing for the kit, the advert, it weirdly doesn't mention the last season of Goodison.
Really? Have they missed that out?
Yeah. So it goes on about the originals and a bit about Everton, a bit about the fans. But there's no mention of the last season of Goodison. Now, I don't know if that's an oversight or they're gonna do something like, I think they are going to do a bespoke kit at the end of the season.
But they'll only do that because we've complained about it. Do you know what? It just feels though. It feels appropriate. The typical Everton way of finishing a Goodison is them not mentioning it whatsoever.
Yeah, it was really odd, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see what they do with that. But it just struck. They might do it with the away kit. Wouldn't make sense. I don't know. It struck me as really odd that.
Yeah, it is. But like I say, do let us know what you think of it, whether you like it, whether you don't, whether you like the prices, which I presume you don't. Whether you've bought it, whether you're in pressure, there's pressure on you to get it for your kids, your family, whatever it is. You're going to get it yourself. You might love it and already bought it. Also, let us know what the two different versions are like, how you think there should be a price difference between them. All of that, get in touch, tweet us. You know where we are all over the place and whatnot. And leave the comments on the podcast wherever we put it out on YouTube. I've Apple, everywhere else we have our stuff going out. Do you want to move on to the more pressing matters, which I think, I think what we've just spoken about there for the best part of over half an hour, given Everton's finances and kits, things people want to get into now. It's really grateful that we've spent 4 days since international football ended. Yay. We've got the Premier League heading back 30 days from now. Who counts them? And Everton have got their first friendly in 48 hours. Didn't he all go?
It's Friday, isn't it? Yeah.
Friday, going to Seamus's old club over in Ireland. I'm sure many fans will be making that trip over there. But again, the nostalgic one when he goes over there, because it's going to be his final season and whatnot. Whether he retires remains to be seen. He might end up over there to finish his football career. You never know, do you?
Like Dixie Dean did.
Like Dixie did, yeah, mate. And I like when various players do that, like Rooney did. Do you know what I mean? I like, obviously we got him far too late to make that much of an impact, but I do like that touch of thing. Yeah. It'd be amazing if he came out of retirement to play the last season of well, he just got all the old players like Diamond and all that, just start having a game on the last day of the season. If we've already stayed up and we play Southampton, just roll them all on. You know what I mean?
Legends match.
Ask the Premier League for unlimited subs. Just bring them all on for the last 2 minutes and all that. But anyway, the Euros finished on Sunday. England got beat 2-1 in the final. Our man Jordan Pickford in goal. Again, I've indicated quite some time I've been criticised for it. Not particularly asked about England, but I'm obviously asked about Jordan Pickford. And I thought he kept England in that game. I thought some of the saves he made throughout the tournament as well. Probably goes far to saying England wouldn't be in that final if it wasn't for Jordan Pickford. He was immense. I think many fans, certainly fans of every other club that you know, want them to make a mistake. They actually actively want him to make a mistake. Yeah. If you're 2-0 up in a game, you want Pickford to cock up, let it go to 2-1 so there's no real effect on the result, and they put Ramsdale on or whoever. But Pickford can come away from that. One of the few can come away from that tournament with his head held high.
Yeah, definitely. It's dead weird, isn't it? So I just don't understand where it comes from. And we've all got players on opposition teams that we hate. I'm not entirely sure why everyone hates Jordan Pickford. I don't think he's that much of a wind-up, is he?
Well, the interesting one was, I don't know if you've seen the montage from BBC at the end, which is really good. I'm not biased at all, but it was really good at the end of it, where it showed the teams lining up to come in out of the tunnel, and he's standing there and he just looks directly at the camera, puts this really funny face, and I'm like, that's him in a nutshell. That. Yeah. I think I was discussing with Matt on Monday Night Football on Blue Monday the other day, was about, I think if you take away what he's like, his personality that does come to the fore. Maybe we were so critical of it that there was an issue with that in regards to mistakes and things, particularly away at Newcastle, all that sort of thing we've spoken about in the past. To me now, because he's such at a high level, that to me is something that I wouldn't want to take away from him. I think it's part of why he's good.
Yeah, and those mistakes, they're long gone now. You're talking, he was 24, 25 when he was doing that, which is young for a goalkeeper.
He's been with us 8 years. Exactly. I can't believe a world-class goalkeeper for 8 years.
Yeah. So you look at that, and it's a young player being a bit of a dickhead, and he's grown out of it, and he's much better for having been through that now. People complain that there's no characters in the game now. Gazza pulls tongues at the screen. Everyone's like, "Oh man, what a character!" Jordan Pickford does something. Look at that dickhead. It's like people complain that there's no, there's complaints that the way people play football now, you don't get wingers sprinting past plays. You don't get maverick footballers doing individual bits, because it's very much a team game now. And you kind of, if you extract that out to the fact that players are just part of a system, then that will obviously, you're going to get less and less characters in the game. It's been a complaint for years that there was more characters in the 70s, there was fewer in the 80s, fewer in the 90s, and so on, because it just gets like that. I think with social media as well, that probably doesn't help because, you know, you've got that instant way to get in touch with the player and you can get loads of shit for just, you know, being themselves on a pitch. And when Richarlison did some keep ups and got taken out on the pitch, and there was commentators going, "Yeah, he deserved that." It's like, no, he's doing something different. He's entertaining people. He's being a bit of a character. And you know, when people do complain about that, but then by the same token, slag off Jordan Pickford for celebrating when he makes a save. Well, why shouldn't he? Why should the keeper not celebrate when they make a save? And as you say, I think he was really good in that tournament. He made 2 good saves in the final, which is, again, I've seen people playing down saying the saves he should make.
Yeah, it's straight out. I think Alan Shearer said that straight at him. He should make it.
Yeah, and and concentrating on like him overhitting like long passes, or why does he keep kicking it long? It's like, well, because no one's coming short for it.
And also, you've got the manager there who obviously he's just resigned, quite clearly saying that's one of the things he needs him to do in terms of the way in which he set this up. Play a long ball out to Harry Kane, who wins headers.
I don't get it. If people hate them as long as he's ours, that's fine because he's our player and he's better than any goal in the country. But by some distance as well, I'd say. So yeah, I find it's so tiresome, and especially when you still see like journalists, so people who get paid for this stuff, saying, "Oh God, he's like a different player for England." He isn't like a different player for England.
Yeah,
been all player of the season for the last 3 seasons or something. It's like, what is wrong? Why people like that?
Yeah, it is the narrative that people go along with, isn't it? I mean, it's not. You mentioned there about journalists. I don't think you'd have to look through a long line of people who didn't agree with ones who say that, he should have saved that. He's, maybe, him, the whole thing about him versus Ramsdale, who's ironically not the Arsenal first choice goalkeeper. Again, people will be devastated about that because they'd have thought, and many would say it, and many did say it, that they wanted him as England number 1.
It's like they want this sort of situation that they had in I think it was the late 70s, early 80s, where you had Ray Clements and Peter Shilton getting like a game each because the manager couldn't pick between them and didn't really have the balls to pick between them. So gave them like a game each, which is, what's the point in that? You want, if there's one position you really want settled, it's your goalie. And we've got that and we've had that and for years now, and still people aren't happy. And if you do look back at former England goalkeepers who people say are better than him, like Shilton, like Seaman, like, I don't know, people always go on about Gordon Banks, which he may have been, but would he be regarded that but for winning the World Cup? I know that's a big thing to say, but he did actually win a World Cup. But, on the games played, saves made, things like that, is he a better keeper? I don't know, I've not seen Gordon Banks, but that's obviously the one that people go to. But I've seen plenty of Peter Shilton, I've seen plenty of David Seaman, and neither of them are as good as him. They're just not.
I agree. I completely agree with that. And I think, you think of the ones that, what could have been ones, you think of like Nigel Martin because he was alongside Seaman.
Yeah.
You go back then now and you think I'd far rather have Martin, not because it's an Everton thing, but you'd rather have Nigel Martin ahead of David Seaman.
I think so.
I mean? There's that sort of thing. You think like David James, Paul Robinson, who was really, really good. There's keepers that have gone by who've thought, you know what, I was given a raw deal there. And if you were to take Jordan Pickford out of it, which when they've got to the 2 finals they've been to, I think the 3 semi-finals they've been to, none of them where you can say, or factual, I think, that Jordan Pickford's been faulted at any of them. People slated him for losing the penalties against Italy. A goalkeeper in... He
saved 2.
I know. A goalkeeper in a penalty shootout, if they've won it, then... that's outstanding. Rightly going to get the level of support they get and the level of sort of people loving the fact that he's gone and done it. But if you lose a penalty shootout, I've no idea why a goalkeeper is ever blamed about that. No. Unless it's a ridiculous one. Like, the only thing that came to mind, funnily enough, is Leno, who was in goal for Fulham. If he didn't save Onana's pen, I'd be wanting them straight out the door if I was a Fulham fan.
Yeah.
Only those sorts of things I do sort of laugh about that. But away from that, we were speaking about what to talk about in today's weekly, and it was with the England hat on again, who takes over from Gareth Southgate, and the runners and riders have already came to the fore. Potter, Howe, Pochettino as well seem to lead the line at the moment, which is interesting. I'd be astonished if England went for a foreign manager, because they seem to just sort of cut the line on that when Capello had that dreadful spell with them. But you mentioned beforehand, is Sean Dyche in and amongst that sort of group where England would look and think, do you know what? I'd probably go and get him. And I've only thought about it since you mentioned it at the start of the show and as we were continuing then. And I could see the logic behind that. I really could, because I don't... and look, he'll get hammered for it because everybody's now going to say you can't have anybody defensive as Gareth Southgate. Gareth Southgate, the only reason we lost games was because how defensive he was. Sean Dyche really fits that sort of category, doesn't he? But if you're the FA and you're still looking for a safe pair of hands, Sean Dyche probably... I don't know, he's probably thought of there, Les.
Yeah, he's potentially like a continuity candidate there, isn't he? Because he has got that defensive first style, really. It's a little bit of a worry for me, because it's like it's we could do without that, like sort of, because like when England take your manager, it can take you quite unawares. It's not like he's on the ropes, you sack him, or there's other clubs interested and he's probably going to go. He's in a steady position at the club now, so it looks like the rug getting pulled. But I could definitely see why England would go for him, because it's that thing, isn't it? People are saying, well, it was Southgate's defensiveness that did for us there. And then you look at, like, let's take Everton as the example. We went from Moyes to Martinez. So for that one season, it was fine. It worked perfectly. As soon as Martinez got his claws into it, stopped defending, completely changed how the team wants to play, it fell apart. And England will be thinking they've done that, much as Everton have over the years. They've chopped and changed between different managers, different nationalities, different styles. And they've never found something that works. They've kind of got a blueprint that works now. Although it's disappointing, you can't knock the record of the fan. People say he was lucky with the draw. Okay, that's fine. But the old cliche is you can only beat what's in front of you. And by and large, they've done that until the final or the semi-final, which is as good as any England manager in our lifetime. So there is a blueprint there of a way of playing that can suit England. Obviously needs a little bit more stardust in the attacking area, I think, doesn't it? It needs a manager who can unlock that attacking talent. But if you're looking for a sort of continuity candidate there, Sean Dyche his name should definitely be up there. Another one is Lee Carsley, who could, and I'd say possibly should, get promoted from within there.
What with Southgate, isn't it?
Yeah, he's been there a while now in the England setup, done a good job with the under-21s. The Spain manager, that he worked his way through the ranks with the national team, didn't he? The one who's just won it now. So I think he deserves it. Lee Carsley, I think that would be the probably the most progressive step up. The funniest one for me would be if Klopp got it. I would be absolutely howling if Klopp got it, because just to see all the Reds squirming about it, they would not know how to compete.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be on a downer all over the place, wouldn't he? Because obviously Everton fans, a lot of Everton fans, massive England fans, you're getting Klopp in there, they'd be fuming for the obvious reasons, and Liverpool fans would be fuming for the obvious reasons as well, wouldn't he? So, do you know what gets me about that? It does interest me that, and as far as I'm concerned, the FA are quite cowardly, to be honest with you. Look, when they give it to Hodgson, these are yes men. And
when they give it to Graham Taylor as well, Howard Kendall should have got it at that point.
Yeah, there you go. They've been like that. They would say, "Oh, we've tipped our toes out into the water to get Capello." Look at Sven as well at the time. Who probably in my lifetime, Sven Gordon Eriksson's probably head and shoulders above everybody else. The way in which he got England playing, it was actually enjoyable to watch it. Obviously, it was that quarter-final issue they always seem to have. He didn't get
David Seaman, wasn't it?
Well, there you go. Yeah, and Ronaldinho and all that stuff, and Rooney getting sent off and all that sort of thing. Was that Capello when he got sent off, Was it
I
still
think that was
Sven?
Capello, yeah. I
Was it Roy?
think it was Capello, wasn't it? I think.
2012 would have been Capello. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that, you go through those histories and you're thinking, oh, what if? Very easy to do with England. But yeah, I think you're right what you're saying there. If you're looking for somebody who you're not completely cutting the cord on Southgate, when you think back that he's had 8 years, you've got a lot of players there who come into that, like the next friendly, for instance, who are like, well, we only know Gareth Southgate's way. We've moved to somebody completely different. I'm thinking, like you say, a Klopp or a Pochettino or somebody like that, and they do go down the foreign route, or even like a Potter, Eddie Howe, completely different.
Yeah.
What Southgate's done, they're going to be under the cost straight away because they haven't succeeded in the way in which Southgate did. So I think that's the impossible job if you're a manager that goes in for that next time. I think that's why I think you've got to go for somebody who's got a set of bollocks, really, because I'm a massive critic of Gareth Southgate, I have to be honest. I think wherever he goes next, I fear for them. And look, there's all this chat that he's going to go to United when they sack Ten Hag and all that stuff. I could see that happening. I could see that being almost a certainty, to be honest with you. Speaking to United fans, I would presume many of them were absolutely gutted that he took over. Because lest we forget, before he got the yes man England job, he was relegated with Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was absolutely dreadful at Middlesbrough as a club manager. He ended up.
There's a big difference, isn't there?
Huge difference. He ended up getting that England job because of that one game where Allardyce fucked up.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And
that was it, wasn't it?
It's quite it's a really interesting history there. That's sort of gone through different things where he ended up the way he did. Really, he has to be, to give him credit. He's been on the crust of a wave, really, in what he's done since he was the England manager. But then you look at that squad now, Les. They should have pissed that tournament. I know Spain had some incredibly gifted young players, but mate, you look at that front three. They could have had the different things he could have done with that squad there. And I know, like Bellingham and all that, didn't play like you'd expect them to. But my word, mate, that 23 or 25, whatever it is, the amount that he had, that should have won that tournament for me.
He should have at least been blowing teams out the water until the final.
Yeah. Group stages and all that. It was very tedious, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing. That's the thing the next manager's got to do. He's got to come in and keep that defensive solidness, really. Solidity.
And they'll have Branthwaite in his prime then. There's no reason not to pick him in the friendlies coming forward in the World Cup.
Did you see there are a few good options there though at centre back now, aren't there?
Yeah.
Really, when you look at it,
he was great. I didn't think you can criticise him whatsoever. He was very good.
John Stones is just brilliant.
Imagine Stones and Branthwaite together, mate. I don't necessarily know if that'd work. I don't know. Are they similar? Too similar, do you think? Or?
It should be, but yeah, I see what you mean. They are could be a little bit.
Two lads who love being on the ball. Yeah. And you're thinking,
you don't want that from your centre halves, do you?
Well, it reminds me of Martinez, where you'd be absolutely shitting yourself when Gareth Barry would get it and have to lay it back to one of the centre backs and then forward to the other team and charging them down. I'm thinking, just fucking kick it up the pitch. And it ended up needing to be doing in the last 2 years, didn't it? So it'd be interesting to see if those two end up playing together. It'd be interesting to see. He might well be a Man City by then, of course.
Yeah, you could be teammates. You never know.
But anyway, we'll leave it there because it's a bit of a marathon pod on the Summer Weekly, giving the kit talk and all that. Do let us know all about that. A little bit of a unique pod this because we were talking about Everton kits. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but do let us know your thoughts on what we asked in terms of the kit, what you're going to do with it. Are you going to buy it? Are you going to burn it? Are you going to try and get one of the black ones that I think that's sort of creeping up as what a lot of people tend to do instead. They also do that thing where you can get the logo ripped off as well. There's a lot of various places you can go and do that. I'm not promoting that sort of thing, by the way, or I'll get in trouble. Anyway, that's me and Les for the Summer Weekly. Loads more coming up. He's obviously back with the mailbag at the end of the week, and we may also have some sort of post-match as Everton travel over to Ireland to see Seamus's old club where it all started. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure there's plenty of nostalgia in that one as well for him. So we'll be talking about all of that on the way through. And thanks for listening and up for toffees.